everybody. We are starting a brand new vlog. We're starting a new vlog because I am I'm watching Unreal. They put Unreal on Netflix. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm so excited because it's September. The weather is cooling outside. I'm able to have my windows open all the time and not set off my air conditioning because I don't like being warm at all. And I'm starting to decorate for Halloween. So if you guys didn't know, I just moved into this house back in May. So what is it now? It's September, January, February, March, April, May. It was the middle of May. May, June, July, August, September. So probably about 4.5 months around there, 4 or 5 months. And it's still a bit of a mess. If you've never moved from house to house, there's just so much crap you don't realize you've accumulated. And we had like this house is bigger, but the layout was so different that it's gonna be a struggle figuring out where things are going to go. This house is only 300 square feet bigger, but the extra room, so like in our old house, we had a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. This house is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, but with a huge bonus space upstairs. It's the only part of the house that's upstairs. The rest of the house is all 1 floor, which is what we wanted. After living in a 2-floor house, we were kind of over it a little bit, and we really liked having just 1 floor. And honestly, it's been great. I have loved having 1 floor and then having that extra bonus space upstairs. So eventually, like, it will be a space, like if we have a bunch of people coming over to stay, they can take like an air mattress upstairs or something. But the upstairs is going to be a library. It is going to be a dedicated, massive library. The only problem with the upstairs is it's slanted, so that kind of sucks. But we're gonna make the whole back wall shelves and all the small walls shelves, and then with like a TV kind of thing and everything. So that's kind of what we're gonna do with that, and that's gonna eventually hopefully be my filming area. I don't know if that will work because there's not much natural light up there, and I do tend to like natural light better, even though it doesn't look as good. I just don't want like a whole bunch of lights. So we'll see. I don't know about the filming, but it is going to be a library eventually. But that being said, we just got a bunch of crap everywhere. So I have been pulling out Halloween stuff. Our house is still kind of a mess. We've been trying to clean it up. We just cleaned up an area over there. We cleaned up some stuff in here and adjusted things. So we're still just trying to figure out where we want stuff because it's such a different layout. If we had just gotten a regular 2-story house, it would have been really easy to like re-put everything where it's supposed to go. But this house is, everything is different. There is not a single thing that is even remotely similar to our old house. So it has been a struggle trying to adjust and figure out where we want to put stuff. But we're pretty happy with how the living room looks, how the kitchen is gorgeous. I love the kitchen. Our bedroom is like 3 times the size. That's basically, there's a spare bedroom in our bedroom is how big it is. That's where a bunch of the other square footage went from our original house. Anyway, like I'm saying, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the Halloween decorations, and I don't have that many for Halloween. I have some. Halloween is kind of my holiday. My husband actually never celebrated Halloween when he was a kid, which I thought was really odd. I'd never met anybody who hadn't celebrated Halloween. He didn't do trick-or-treating, nothing like that, because he was from a super, super small rural area where Halloween was kind of seen as like the devil's holiday. And all the houses were like 40 acres, so there was no trick-or-treating either. Like if they were to do trick-or-treating, it would be I didn't know this existed because, again, I'm from an area that did house-to-house trick-or-treating. I'd never heard of this. Trunk or treat? Have you guys heard of that? I didn't hear about it until we moved to Charlotte. That's where we lived before this was Charlotte, and we hated it. But instead of doing trick-or-treating, we never had a trick-or-treater at our house. The 6 years we lived there, never had a trick-or-treater. Instead, they did, like, trunk or treat, which is you take your car to churches. Churches hold trick-or-treating events where they put candy like in the trunks, I guess, or like they just have bags of candy and you pass it out. They just go from car to car instead of from house to house, which is way safer. It's way safer than what we did as a kid. But I don't know, like it kind of like, that kind of like makes me a little sad because Halloween was my favorite. As a kid, I had a group of friends that we always went out every single year and trick-or-treated, and it was like the best time ever. It was the absolute best time ever. So I'm kind of sad that's not a thing, and I'm really curious now that we're more north again, and instead of being like kind of in the south, we're definitely, we're kind of middle. Like a lot of people would still consider this to me, this is exactly middle. But this is not like, it's like a middle of the road state kind of thing. There's a lot of southern areas and there's a lot of northern areas. So where we live, it's kind of just hipsters. That's kind of where we live. So I'm curious if we're gonna get trick-or-treaters. I kind of hope we do. I love trick-or-treaters. I think they're so adorable. So I'm hoping we get trick-or-treaters. So I definitely want to go out, like all out and decorate, especially outside of our house. Obviously, we have some blow-ups and stuff, but so I'll see if Lucas will do that. But anyway, I'm kind of working on the inside of the house because it's a busy week. This is a very, very busy week for me and my husband. I don't know when this is coming out. I'm probably filming this way ahead in advance because I'm just in an October Halloween mood. So I want to do Halloween-y things. So we're going to be reading Halloween books. We're going to be reading horror books and witchy books. And we're going to be decorating. I'm going to show you some of the decorations that I do. But you can already see I've kind of started in the background. Let's talk about what we're going to read. This is going to be, does this look a little sideways to you guys? Looks sideways to me. This, again, I got this new stand and new light, which I'm not using the light right now. I should have, but I didn't think about it. This is going to be like super behind the scenes vlog where you see everything. Probably should cut more of these things and be better at filming, but you're going to see everything. Let me turn the light on to actually talk about the book. Okay, so we are going to start, oh God, it is bright. It's bright. It's very cloudy today, which is why it looks like even brighter. So we are going to be starting with a brand new buy. I bought Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. Remember that time I said I wasn't going to buy any more horror books? Well, this is an exception. And I'm sure I'm still going to be buying horror books. But this is definitely an exception because this is the same author who wrote Bloom earlier this year. And again, it is a novella. Bloom was a novella. I loved Bloom. I thought it was really good. The ending traumatized me a little bit, but it was fantastic. I gave it a 4 stars. But I had no idea this was coming out. And I saw it on the YouTube channel and I was like, oh my gosh. And I ordered it that second. I'm so easily influenced, especially when I'm like excited about something. So I bought it that night. It came. And I am so excited to read it. I'm so excited to read it. So people are saying it's a couple different things. So T. Kingfisher says it's Glass Onion meets Saw. I'm like, oh man. And then I also saw online that it's like The Menu meets Ready or Not. And I was like, The Menu and Ready or Not are 2 of my favorite horror movies. Eat the Rich. Love it. It's just so much fun. Secluded island kind of thing. And that's what this sounds like. It sounds like this woman is going on a date with her kind of fake boyfriend. Like, she doesn't actually like him. She just wants what his wealth can give her. And she ends up on this private island and it goes downhill from there. And I'm like, and also this cover, are you kidding me? It's gorgeous. And then when you open it up, it also has that on the inside. This is one of the prettiest books that I own. I know that's like a crazy thing to say because I have so many special editions, but I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with this. So this is 200 pages. I'm probably just going to sit down and read it, to be honest. That is probably what I'm going to do, and then work some more on this. So this shouldn't take me too long to read. This will probably take me 2 to 3 hours to read. And then I can work on some more of that. So we'll see what happens. I also am like, I have a lineup of kind of things that I want to read. I have a romance that is all vampires, and it's an arc that I have that's coming out October 1st. So I want to read it before October 1st. So I figured it would be perfect to put out in this. And then I can put this video out sometime at the end of September or beginning of October. But it is called Fang Fiction, and it is the same author as... what is it called? I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't remember what it's called. It was so good. It was a heavy set girl who goes on The Bachelor and is the Bachelorette. And it's so good. It is so good. And I'm so excited about it because the writing was just so fantastic. So Fang Fiction is about this girl who's obsessed with this book series, Blood Feud, which reminds me a lot of like True Blood, which is probably why I wanted to read it in the first place. And she finds out that like the vampires are real and she's dealing with that. And that sounds so much fun. And the books are normally fun. They're quick reading. And so I'm hoping it's as good as the first one. So those are kind of the 2 that I definitely want to get to. And I don't know where we'll go from there. It depends, I guess, how quickly I read them as well. Because again, this shouldn't take very long. So I'll probably look around, see what horror books that I have. I do have House of Hunger over there that I do want to get to because I'm deciding if I want to skip Evernight, which is a book by Alexis Henderson. So I kind of want to read House of Hunger to see if the writing style is something I'd like before I get the Evernight, because Evernight's a little bit expensive. So that's kind of where we're at. I have some mixed results to talk about. It's actually been 2 days since I did the original update. I have decorated a bunch for Halloween since then. I have read kind of 2 books, and I've picked the 3rd and possibly 4th books because it's a mess right now. It's an absolute mess. And I have to talk about it because it is going to adjust my mood throughout this vlog. So I feel bad talking about comments that people make in the comment section, but it is affecting my mood because I wasn't going to talk about it. And it's not like a mean comment or anything, but it is something that's sticking with me a little bit. And it's nothing against you if you're the person who commented it. It's definitely just kind of sticking with me a little bit because I feel like it's the bane of anyone who does reviews for anything. It's like the bane of their existence when someone comments about you not liking something or you liking something too much. So like there's a ton of, like, I feel like there are channels that are negative channels on YouTube where they don't like absolutely anything. And then there are channels that are positive channels where they only like things. Mine's a very honest channel, so if I'm going through something, if I'm going through like a reading slump like I am right now, there's a good chance I'm not gonna like a lot of stuff that I'm reading right now. And so I had a comment that was, lately you've been not liking things, and I'd like to see a video where you talk about what you like things. And I'm just like, I kind of sat there for a moment with that one because it's not like I'm not liking things on purpose. And that's kind of how I responded. I hope I didn't come off mean in that comment because that's definitely not what I was trying to come off as. But it's definitely, like I said, the bane of YouTube, the bane of some vloggers and just reviewers in general, like movie reviewers, book reviewers, item reviewers, I guess, too, where especially if you're just trying to be as honest as possible, sometimes you're just not gonna like things. And I feel like that's what's been happening. And Illumicrate I knew was a risk because I have not liked generally Illumicrate books in a while, but I haven't done an Illumicrate vlog in a while. So I knew I wasn't gonna like some stuff in there. I just wasn't expecting to not like anything. So when I got that comment, I was like, oh. So now I just feel like this pressure that I can't dislike anything in this vlog. Like that's what it feels like. I feel like I've been too negative and I've read so many things I don't like because the Fairy Loot vlog was a mess too. I read a ton of stuff I didn't like in there. And then my wrap-ups, I've had a bunch of DNFs, and August wasn't that, what is today? Today is September. Yeah, August I didn't have that many that I like really liked. I don't think I had did I have a 5-star? No, I did. I had Assistant to the Villain. Wait, did I read this month? What did I read? I think I actually read that this month. Yeah, I don't think I had any 5 stars last month. So, and I looked at it, I'm like, and my book club picks have not been good the past 2 months, I think. So, yeah, I feel like this pressure that I can't talk about things that I didn't like. So when I DNF'd a book for this video, I was like, do I just cut it out? Because I was hoping I would just like everything in that book. But that's not realistic then. Then I'm faking what I'm reading and what I like. So I am just feeling like a little self-conscious after that. Because I do try to be as honest as possible. And anything that I read, I do intend to like. I think the only series that I read and I know I'm not gonna like, and I don't talk about on the channel except for my wrap-ups, I didn't make them a video channel, a video series, is the My Heart's a Chainsaw series. I hate read those because I have to know what's happening. Still haven't read the final 3rd one. And then I have I Was a Teenage Slasher, which I was thinking about reading for this, but there's a very high likelihood I'm not gonna like it because I don't like Stephen Graham Jones, and I don't know why I bought that. Everyone was talking about it, and I was just like, I want to read it. And I've been really good about not doing that, but I did crack for that one. So I was gonna put that in this video. I'm not. It probably will be in a Halloween video. Like, all my content from this point on is gonna be like Halloween content. That being said, I'm probably not gonna like that one. So I just feel so I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense. I just feel very off. And I talked to my husband about it too. He was like, just review what you want to review. Like, don't worry about it. But I feel bad. Like, I feel bad if people think I'm just being negative. So I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to make this like a negative channel. It's not. It's just, I'm in a reading slump, and it is making books that I would normally finish. It's making them DNFs. And it's also probably bringing down the ratings slightly, but I don't think it is though, because I read Guillotine. I was expecting to like it, and I did like it. I give this a 4-star. So I clearly can enjoy books, but I'm enjoying ones that annoy me less than I normally would. So, like I said, I was gonna read Fang fiction. I DNF'd it. I normally would have finished it. I DNF'd it at 75%. I normally would have just gone ahead and finished that, but because I'm in a reading slump, a bit of a reading slump, and I'm just struggling to pick things up, when I want to put it down, I'm going to put it down. So things that were annoying me in that book were like really ticking me off and really annoying me, and I just couldn't be bothered to read the last 100 pages. So, and that's the thing, if I finished that book, it would have been a 2. Like, it would have been a 2, because I also skimmed the ending, because I always skim the endings of books that I DNF, so I can kind of fairly talk about them and whether I agree with DNFing or don't. So, yeah. So anyway, we'll talk about them in order, but that's kind of why I'm, like, feeling off. And I'm, like, trying so hard to pick stuff that I'm going to like, instead of just, like, picking stuff that, like, takes my fancy, because I have 3 books coming from the library. I don't know if I'm gonna like any of them. So I'm like, they were originally what I was going to put in this video after Guillotine and Fang fiction, but I got so stressed because of that comment that I actually started reading something else, which is working. It's working, but it definitely was more of a, I plotted it out kind of pick, instead of my usual, this is how I'm feeling. This is how what I want to read based on my mood reading feelings. So kind of sucks, because it did change the way I was doing things, but we'll talk about it in a minute, and what book I'm reading right now. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to let you know, because I just felt weird about it, and I don't know. I don't know. So yeah. For anyone who didn't think I read the comments, I read the comments. But anyway, it was just weird. It was weird, and it made me think too much, I think. And again, nothing against the actual commenter. That's how you feel. That's how you feel about something. But it definitely took me a second. It took me a second. So anyway, getting back to actual book content, I feel really weird being that, like, vulnerable about things. And I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings either. But I felt like I had to kind of talk about it, because it might affect the next couple of vlogs that I do. Because I was already shopping a 5-star book prediction video, but I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do it or just continue with Halloween stuff. So I don't know. Like, it's definitely affecting my decision making. So anyway, back to the books. Guillotine. This is 1000% the menu meets Ready. I almost said Ready Player One. That is not at all. Ready or Not. I do wish, so it got a 4, because I do think this needed a bit of the comedy aspect of the menu. If you guys haven't seen the menu, highly recommend. My parents even loved it. It's following our main character, who gets roped into being a date to go to this exclusive island where there's this, like, crazy expensive restaurant, and there's only, like, what, 20 diners or something that are allowed at a time, and it's just this very exclusive experience. And then it turns out that it's not. It's not what's gonna happen on the island. So the comedy, the dark comedy that is in that movie is so phenomenal and works so well in that movie. Same with Ready or Not. Ready or Not has this, like, such good comedy to kind of cut the darkness aside. Like, neither movie takes itself too seriously. And I think this one doesn't take itself too seriously, but it didn't try to do it in, like, a comedic way. And I think this would have been easy 5 stars if it took the comedy parts of the menu in Ready or Not and added that in this. But I read Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson, and it had a very similar tone. This was definitely a lighter tone than Bloom. rich people really getting what they deserve, like really awful rich people getting what they deserve, and it's great. It's great. Again, I do think it took itself a little bit too seriously with what the twist is in this. I do think the twist is pretty obvious, but with the twist in this, it needed some of that levity. It needed like little one-liners or just these kind of goofy things that were happening. And it didn't do that, so that's why it gets a 4, because it just needed this little extra oomph to it, but it was still so good. It was so good and exactly what I wanted, and I'm just loving these horror novellas. I don't know if it's just because Delilah is Dawson, but I'm loving horror novellas right now. I want to talk about Fang fiction. One to watch, that's what it's called. I gave One to Watch 5 stars by this author, and oh man, Fang fiction, I loved the first 30%. It was my favorite book I've ever read for the first 30%. I could not put the book down. I was obsessed with it. I was like, this is going to be my favorite book of the year. This is going to be my favorite book of the year. It was so campy and just so much fun because we have our main character who is obsessed with a series called Blood Feud. I don't know how much of this I explained. I'll probably cut some of this out. It's following this girl who's obsessed with these Blood Feud books, and she has like a very rough past, and I will say this has major trigger warnings, and that is one of the reasons I had an issue with it, because I don't think it handled there's SA off screen or off page, but it is talked about multiple times. Like it is talked about a lot of the plot and personality is based off of that having happened. It's following her, and she ends up meeting a character from Blood Feud, because a lot of people think the vampires are real, and someone's writing the books based off of them and stuff that's happening on this magical island where all the vampires have been sequestered to. And so she ends up meeting one of the characters, and it turns out all the vampires are trapped on this island, and this isn't a spoiler, this is all in the synopsis. And so she has to go and try to figure out how to get a message to the vampires, and I think it says it even in the synopsis that she goes onto the island. So her part of the story is on the island with these vampires, and then the part that's still in New York is her best friend who doesn't know why she left school because of the thing that happened to her. She doesn't know that, so she's been trying to figure out what's going on with her friend, and she ends up meeting the vampire, and her and the vampire are stuck in New York. They're trying to figure out stuff on their side. So first 30% was our main character, Tess. So Tess, when she's in New York plotting and talking about Blood Feud, it's so good. At the 30% mark, she goes to the island. It just absolutely tanks. It absolutely tanks. This book should never have been a romance because the romances are so bad. They 1000% ruined the books, which is wild because in One to Watch, romances were so good. They were so good and so much fun. And in this, it was, I don't even know how to explain how bad they were. Twilight's romances were way better than this. I'd rather read those all 4 books over again than read this one. That's how bad it was. But I also like Twilight, so I guess that's not saying that much about it. The character meets Callum, who is supposedly this bad vampire. He's like the bad boy. He's the bad boy vampire. And you all of a sudden switch to his perspective. So, which I think was also a mistake. There's too many perspectives in this. They followed Tess, Callum, Olivia, the vampire stuck in New York, and Joni, the friend. Way too many perspectives. It definitely jumped around, and it didn't tell you, and it jumped mid-chapter. Hate that. So it jumps to Callum's perspective, and Callum's like already kind of obsessed with her. Like he's already talking about his like, I need to protect her. I need to protect her. She's just so delicate, and she's so pretty. And I'm like, bruh, you just met her. So hated that. And that's what pretty much the whole thing was Callum obsessing over her. And it was not fun to read. It wasn't fun to read because there was no substance, and because you didn't build any sort of chemistry between them, there was zero chemistry when they got together. I actually DNF'd it when they had sex for the first time because I was like, this is awful. And it was so cringy. It was the worst dialogue I've ever read. And I feel like it was potentially doing it on purpose, but it didn't work. It didn't feel like it was on purpose. It was so bad. So then I was kind of living at this point for the New York perspective, because Joni and Olivia were actually like kind of good. They were actually kind of building their romance. And then Olivia's like this very selfish character. And so I was kind of like seeing her kind of grow over the book. And then she makes Joni do something that Joni doesn't want to do. And I don't know if it's apologized for later, but to me, it doesn't matter at that point. We're 75% in the book, and our main romance for Joni is like literally an asshole, like making her miss the most important meeting of her life to go do stuff that she needs. But it's like, no, absolutely not. That totally ruined them for me. But the other thing that hurt was they had a very slow burn kind of thing going on. Like they were like kind of obsessing over each other, but just in their heads, and like keeping it kind of chill. But that took a little bit while to get there, and Olivia was kind of fighting it, and Joni at first was more like love struck, like meeting one of her like obsessions, and then it turned into like actual interest. But then it was like it was still in the baby stages, and then they go to this like event, and immediately just like it goes from 0 to 100, and I was like, what the heck? What happened to like building this story? The problem is there was too much going on for how many pages? It was 400 pages. It felt too long, but there was too much in this. It should have just been from Tess's perspective, and they should have still been in New York. I don't think they ever should have went to the island. The island was so boring. And that's what I've seen a lot of people complain about, is the dialogue, the romances had no chemistry, and Tess's portion of the story on the island is just, it's so boring, and the magic system makes no sense. If you are a fantasy reader, I would not recommend this. So it was just rough. It was really bad. So because of that, I did want to read something I thought I was really going to like, and I was enjoying the vampire-esque thing that I was reading. So I did pick a book I've been waiting to read for quite a long time. This book has been on my TBR for so long. I actually got rid of my second copy because I didn't like the paperback, and I got a Fairy Loot edition of it, even without knowing that I would like it, but this is one of my favorite authors. I got The Coldest Girl in Coldtown by Holly Black, and so I've already started reading this, and I am about 58 pages, something about like that, through it. It's very, very good. It's very good so far. I just love how Holly Black writes. I do think I'm a little worried about the length of this book, because a lot has already happened in 54 pages. So I'm like, what else is going to happen in this book? So I'm enjoying this. This is following our main character. It's a very interesting world. See, the world building in the first 50 pages of this is already really, really good. There is some info dumpy stuff, but it's not too much, because we are building off of a normal world. And so our main character, did I say Tana? She is living in a version of the United States where there's been vampire infections and outbreaks, and the vampires have been quarantined off into places called cold towns. So there's cold towns all across the United States, and that's where all the vampires have to go, because just biting somebody infects them. That's how like fast it is. And so the only way to cure the disease is to that person not feed for like 88 days. And then they will not become a vampire, supposedly. We don't have any proof that that's what it is, but that's kind of what we're looking at. And so we open up where our main character was just at a party, and vampires attack. And so she is going to, it seems like, go explore these cold towns. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I think this is so good already. And I do think this is very Halloween-y, and there are some creepy aspects to this already that I'm really enjoying. So that works really well. So anyway, we're going to read The Coldest Girl in Coldtown. I am pretty excited about this. It wasn't originally on the plan, but I'm very excited about it. So I did end up finishing The Coldest Girl in Coldtown, and this was really good. This was really good. I actually thought this was going to be a 5-star, but I am going to give it a 4, because I think part of that has to do with my expectations about this book. And again, I think it was kind of a little bit on Fairy Loot in this situation, because this definitely, like, when you look at it, look at like the end pages, you have Gabrielle, and then you have Tana and Gabrielle. So it seems very romance heavy, and there is a romance in this, but that's not what this book is about. This book is not, I would not classify this as a romance, personally. Because it definitely wasn't like the point of the book. The point of the book was the world building and the found relationships on the way and kind of finding yourself in situations that are incredibly difficult. And this book was so good. This book was so good. I will say one of the reasons it gets a 4 is because the romance in it was a bit wonky. So like it started off really, really good, and then it kind of disappeared in the middle of the plot. And then when it came back at the end, there was like a missing piece to it because it had disappeared for so long. I think because of that, I actually could have done without a romance in this book. I really didn't need a romance for all the other really cool stuff that was going on. And the end was a bit open-ended. And you know how I feel about open-ended book endings. I just in general like things to be a little bit neater, a little bit more wrapped up into a bow. And there was just like one thing at the very end that it was like, okay, how is it going to turn out? And we are left to guess how it turns out. And I don't love that. I don't love that. But the rest of the book was so cool. This was probably the most interesting ways to do vampires I've seen in a very, very long time. Things may look a little unfamiliar in this final clip of this reading scary books for pre-Halloween, because I'm actually at the beach. We had a little bit of a issue with scheduling for this video, because if I had finished Fang fiction, then I would have been right on time. This would have been released right before we left for the beach. Would have been good. But because I didn't have Fang fiction, it kind of put me behind schedule, unfortunately. Because at the beach, I'm working on a different vlog, which is just beach things and reading books that I think are going to be 4 or 5 stars. So that's what I'm trying to work on now. But I kind of had to fit my dog was just eating and drinking water, so he's very excited right now. I kind of had to like fit a very quick horror book into the beginning of the beach trip, because we are now, it is Tuesday of the beach trip. So I read The Night Guest. I ended up picking this up. I renewed my subscription for Everand basically for the beach, because it has so many audiobooks and people are saying really good things about The Night Guest. And like I've been talking about, I think I really like novellas. I really like horror novellas, so I was like, okay, let's try this one out. Final book for this video is The Night Guest, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. I didn't really understand the ending. That's really what the rating is, because I really liked, and trigger warnings, there's cat deaths, like kind of disturbing cat deaths in this. And I really didn't like that. It was very over the top. And that kind of took it down a star, because it was just kind of like, ooh. And I knew it was coming too, which is unfortunate. And then the ending, I can't tell you what happened at the end. I literally can't tell you. It did not make sense to me. I read it like, I listened to it like 3 or 4 times, and it totally went over my head. I'm pretty sure I have an idea of what it symbolized, because this is one of those symbolization books where things mean other things. Think Our Wives Under the Sea kind of thing, where it doesn't, what's going on isn't really what's going on kind of book. But we're following our main character, and this is a translated work. We're following our main character who is waking up feeling like she hasn't slept at all. She wakes up with bruises and pain all over her body, and the opening of the book was rough to get through, and I really, really loved it at the same time, because as a chronic illness girly who has an invisible chronic illness, like literally cannot see it, cannot see any symptoms of it, and doctors have to rely on just what I'm saying, it's tough out there. It's really hard out there. And the whole beginning of the novella was talking about that and her trying to get answers to people not really believing her, and this super weird thing that no one can explain. And that was tough. I actually don't read books like that, and I didn't know that that was what the beginning was going to be like. But at the same time, I kind of loved it. I'm not going to do it again because I'm not equipped to handle that, especially in long form, but it was super well done. It was so well done. So I loved that. This was 5-star vibes feeling, because I also loved the translation was phenomenal. Like, I couldn't have told you it was translated work. It felt like it was written originally in English. It was so well done. And then it definitely moves away from that into us actually kind of figuring out what it is, and it's different than what you're kind of taught to think about what it might be at the beginning. So I loved it. I really did love it, except for the cats were brought in us unnecessarily. Hi. He's trying to get up on the bed because I'm just in here really quickly to finish wrapping up this vlog. And then the cats were brought up unnecessarily, and then the ending just didn't work. So that being said, I gave it a 3. I did enjoy it. I would definitely read another book, probably novella from this author, but I thought it was a really good way to finish out this because I did enjoy it. It was something different from an author I hadn't read before. And my other translated work that I read earlier this year did not go very well. So I was kind of hoping this would go a lot better. So wrapping up this vlog, I obviously don't have any of the books with me because they're at my house, but what did we read? We read Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. Speaking of which, I just got approved for her new book on NetGalley, so I will be reading that eventually. That was a 4-star. The Menu Meets Ready or Not. Had a lot of fun with it. Wish there had been a little more humor in it. I think that would have helped the book. And we tried Fang Fiction, which was, the writing was honestly just the issue. I really wish someone else had taken this idea and ran with it. I think this could have been a really, really good book if we just went in a different direction. I think there was too many points of view. The points of view were done poorly. The writing was generally just not good, which was really surprising because their debut book was so much better written, and the romances were super flat, no chemistry, lots of problems. We DNF'd that one. Then we moved on to I knew I was going to like it because it's Holly Black. We read Coldest Girl in Coldtown. Loved it. Loved it. Did not love the ending, and I do think it dragged on a little bit in the middle, and I do think the romance just was kind of meh, which is why I got a 4-star, but I still loved it. Very excited to have a special edition of that book. And then, like I just said, we finished off with The Night Guest, which I listened to on audiobook, which is how I would listen to it. I think it on audiobook is phenomenal. So I recommend that one, even though I gave it a 3-star. Just if you have any issues with animal cruelty or animal deaths, I would not read that one. That was a little traumatizing. And maybe if you read it, tell me what they meant by the ending. Because I still don't know. So that's how we're going to wrap up this vlog. I actually would say this was successful. I found 2 new horror books that I've liked, because I'm gonna say I liked The Night Guest. A 3 stars, I enjoyed it. And then we found a young adult fantasy horror-esque kind of thing with vampires that I really liked, and unfortunately there was one DNF, but it wasn't bad. Like, it's not gonna go on the worst list. It just was rough. It was just rough, but I had a good time. I had a good time, and I will be doing more of these horror vlogs for Halloween, but I really wanted to get into the fall Halloween spirit in September because, like I said, September is pre-Halloween. So yeah. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it so you don't miss any future content. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure you leave a comment down below what you want to read for Halloween, if you've read any of these books, if you want to read any of these books. And I'll see you guys in the next video.